In the last episode, Serenya and her companions ventured into the ruins of Eltharion, where Serenya faced a trial from the ancient guardian. She uncovered a map to the source of her curse, hidden in the perilous Forsaken Peaks. But as they departed, a shadowy figure revealed that their journey might come at a price far greater than they imagined. Night blanketed the land as Serenya, Kale, and Lyra camped near a quiet stream. The glow of their small fire cast flickering shadows on their weary faces. Serenya studied the map, her brow furrowed as she traced the glowing runes. Kale handed her a piece of bread, his voice soft. "You've been staring at that for hours. Take a break." "I can't," Serenya replied. "This map holds the answers I've been searching for my entire life. I can't let anything distract me." "You need strength for the journey ahead," Kale insisted. Lyra, sitting nearby, leaned in. "The Forsaken Peaks aren't just dangerous, they're cursed. The stories say that those who venture too close never return. Are we really ready for this?" Serenya glanced at her companions, guilt weighing heavy on her. "I won't force either of you to come. This is my burden." "You're not alone in this," Kale said firmly. "We're with you, no matter what." Unseen by them, the shadowy figure from Eltharion lingered in the darkness, watching, its silent presence filled with malice. The following days were grueling. The terrain grew steeper as they approached the Forsaken Peaks, and the air turned colder. As they climbed, Serenya began having vivid dreams, visions of a woman cloaked in black, her eyes filled with sorrow. In one dream, the woman whispered, "You must remember. The truth is inside you." When Serenya awoke, she could still hear the faint echo of the woman's voice. Kale noticed her troubled expression. "Another dream?" "Yes," Serenya admitted. "There's a woman. She feels familiar, but I don't know who she is. She keeps telling me to remember." Lyra frowned. "Maybe she's connected to the curse." "I don't understand how," Serenya said, frustration bubbling in her voice. "All I've ever known is that my curse brings pain to everyone I care about. If there's more to it, why didn't anyone tell me before?" As they neared the peaks, the landscape grew desolate. Blackened trees dotted the rocky terrain, and the howling wind carried an unnatural chill. The map led them to a hidden path carved into the mountainside. Strange symbols marked the entrance, glowing faintly as they approached. "This is it," Serenya said, her voice barely above a whisper. Kale drew his sword. "Stay close." The air grew heavy as they ventured inside. The path twisted and turned, leading them to a massive stone chamber illuminated by an eerie, pulsing light. In the center of the room stood an ancient altar, etched with the same runes as the map. As Serenya stepped closer, the altar began to glow brighter. A sudden wave of energy washed over her, and she fell to her knees, clutching her head. The world around Serenya faded, and she found herself in a vivid vision. She stood in a grand throne room, its walls adorned with gold and crimson banners. At the center of the room was a regal woman, the same woman from her dreams. The woman turned to Serenya, her eyes filled with pain. "You've come far, my child. Who are you?" Serenya asked, her voice trembling. "I am Elenia," the woman said, "your ancestor, and the source of your curse." Serenya froze. "What do you mean? Why would you curse me?" Elenia's expression darkened. "It was never meant for you. Centuries ago, I made a terrible mistake. I was queen of a prosperous kingdom, but my heart was consumed by ambition. To protect my realm, I sought the aid of a powerful sorcerer, one who promised me eternal power in exchange for a small sacrifice." "What kind of sacrifice?" Serenya whispered. "My bloodline," Elenia said, her voice breaking. "The sorcerer cursed my descendants, binding our family to a cycle of suffering. Anyone who bears the curse would bring misfortune to those they love most." Serenya's chest tightened. "Why didn't you stop him?" "I tried," Elenia said, tears streaming down her face. "But it was too late. The curse was sealed, and I was powerless to undo it. For centuries, I've watched my descendants suffer because of my mistake. But you, Serenya, you are different. You have the strength to break the cycle." "How?" Serenya asked. Elenia reached out, her hand glowing with ethereal light. "You must go to the heart of the peaks. There, you will find the sorcerer's relic, the source of his power. Destroy it and the curse will end. But beware, my child. The path ahead is fraught with danger. You must be prepared to make sacrifices." Serenya gasped as the vision faded. She was back in the chamber, Kale and Lyra kneeling beside her. "What happened?" Kale asked, his eyes filled with concern. "I saw her," Serenya said, her voice shaking. "The woman from my dreams. She's my ancestor. She's the one who caused the curse." Lyra's eyes widened. "Why would she do that?" "She was trying to protect her kingdom," Serenya explained. "But it went wrong. The curse was meant to punish her, but it's been passed down through our bloodline." Kale frowned. "Did she tell you how to break it?" "Yes," Serenya said. "We have to destroy the sorcerer's relic. It's somewhere in the heart of the peaks." Lyra glanced around nervously. "If this place is anything like the Shadewood or Eltharion, we're going to face a lot more than curses before we find it." As they prepared to leave the chamber, the shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its face hidden beneath a hood. "So, you've learned the truth," the figure said, its voice cold and mocking. "But the heart of the peaks is not yours to claim." Kale stepped forward, his sword raised. "Who are you?" The figure chuckled. "I am the keeper of the relic. And I will ensure that the curse remains unbroken." Before anyone could react, the figure raised its hand, and a torrent of dark energy surged toward them. Kale barely managed to shield Serenya as the dark energy lashed out. The chamber trembled as the shadowy figure stepped closer, its voice cold and merciless. "You'll go no further," it snarled. Lyra, eyes sharp with determination, whispered an incantation under her breath. A wall of shimmering light burst forth, deflecting the next attack. "Run!" Lyra shouted. Kale grabbed Serenya's hand, pulling her through a narrow passage as the chamber collapsed behind them. Lyra followed, but her expression was tense, as though the encounter had shaken her more than she let on. Once they were safely outside, Serenya turned to her companions. "Who was that? And how did you do that, Lyra?" Lyra hesitated, avoiding their gazes. "I'll explain later. For now, we need to keep moving." As they trekked deeper into the Forsaken Peaks, the air grew colder, and tensions between the trio mounted. Serenya's mind churned with questions about Lyra's magic. Kale, ever the protector, grew more suspicious. "She's hiding something," Kale muttered to Serenya as they set up camp for the night. "She saved us," Serenya pointed out. "Doesn't mean we shouldn't be cautious," Kale replied. Later that evening, Serenya found herself sitting by the fire with Lyra. The tension between them was palpable. "Lyra," Serenya said softly, "I've trusted you with my life. If there's something I need to know, please tell me." Lyra looked away, her voice barely audible. "It's not that simple." Serenya placed a hand on Lyra's arm. "It is. We've been through too much for secrets to come between us." Lyra's eyes filled with anguish. "Fine. You deserve the truth. I wasn't honest about why I joined you." Kale appeared from the shadows, his arms crossed. "Then start talking." Lyra took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "I was sent by the Council of Elders in my village. They knew about the curse, and they wanted me to monitor you." "Monitor me?" Serenya asked, her heart sinking. "They think your curse is too dangerous," Lyra admitted. "If they believe you're a threat, they'll stop you, by any means necessary." Kale's hand moved instinctively to his sword. "So you're a spy?" "No," Lyra insisted. "At first, yes, but it changed. I saw who Serenya is, how much she's sacrificed, how much she cares for others despite what she's been through. I couldn't betray her. That's why I stayed." Serenya's voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared," Lyra said, tears streaming down her face. "I thought you'd never trust me again. But I swear, everything I've done since joining you has been to help you." Kale stepped between them. "How do we know you're telling the truth now?" Serenya raised a hand, silencing him. "I believe her." Kale's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, retreating into the shadows. Later that night, Serenya found herself unable to sleep. She wandered a short distance from the camp, her thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and guilt. Kale followed, his footsteps soft against the rocky ground. You shouldn't be out here alone. I needed some air, Serenya replied, not turning to face him. Kale hesitated before speaking. You're too forgiving. Am I? Serenya asked. Lyra could have betrayed me a dozen times over, but she didn't. Doesn't that mean something? It means she's good at playing both sides, Kale said. Serenya sighed, the weight of her decisions pressing down on her. Maybe. Or maybe she's like me, stuck in a situation she didn't ask for, trying to make the best of it. Kale stepped closer, his voice softening. You always see the good in people. It's one of the things I admire about you. Serenya turned to him, her heart skipping a beat at the intensity in his gaze. Kale? Before she could finish, Kale reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. I swore to protect you, Serenya. Not just because of the curse or the kingdom. Because I care about you. Time seemed to stand still as their eyes locked. Kale leaned in, and for a moment, Serenya forgot about the curse, the danger, and the guilt. She let herself feel the warmth of his closeness, the softness of his voice. But then she pulled away, her voice shaking. I can't kill. You know why? Kale stepped back, pain flashing across his face. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, Serenya interrupted. It's not your fault. But if I let myself love you, I'll destroy you. I can't live with that. Kale's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Then we keep moving. For now. The next morning, the group arrived at the base of the Heart of the Peaks, a massive, jagged spire that seemed to pierce the sky. Strange whispers echoed through the air, sending chills down their spines. This is it, Serenya said, steeling herself. As they began their ascent, the terrain grew treacherous. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, and eerie figures appeared in the mist, vanishing just as quickly. Halfway up, they stumbled upon a crumbling shrine. In its center was a stone pedestal holding an ancient journal. Serenya picked it up, her hands trembling as she read the faded script. The words confirmed her worst fears. The sorcerer who cursed Elenia had done so out of revenge. Elenia had spurned his love, choosing her kingdom over him. In his fury, he bound her bloodline to eternal suffering. Serenya's breath hitched. This was all because of love. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. That doesn't mean it has to end the same way for you. Before she could respond, the shadowy figure from before reappeared, its voice echoing with malice. You've come far, but this is where your journey ends. The figure raised its hands, and the mountain trembled. Dark tendrils of energy shot out, separating the trio. Serenya found herself standing alone, face to face with the figure. Why are you doing this? She demanded. Because the curse is mine to guard, the figure replied, lowering its hood to reveal a pale, gaunt face. And I will not let you undo my master's work. The figure's face was eerily familiar, eerily similar to Serenya's own.